With a 20-year reputation for clean business, Matt Glynn at Code Property Group is the first choice for real estate on the Sunshine Coast and surrounding areas. I've known Matt for a very long time from a personal level and professional level, and he is an excellent real estate agent. He's professional, he holds a high level of integrity, he presents incredibly well, and has a huge amount of knowledge when it comes to the real estate industry. So if you are in the market to buy, sell, or simply get a valuation and find out more about your current property, then give Matt a call on 0404 315 066 or matt.glynn, GLYNN at codepg.com. You won't be disappointed. All right, well, we're here in India, and I have grabbed my beautiful wife for 5 minutes, dragged her away from her busy schedule to to have a chat. But so welcome, Monty. Firstly, I'm completely making this up as I go along.
Yeah, thanks.
How you going?
I'm good.
You good? Yeah.
I'm good.
It's the 1st of July, so first of the second half of the year. We've just come off the back of the ICN Bangalore show, which was really, really good. Big day. It's taken us probably several days to try and acclimatise to the time zone, to sleep. It's been interesting. But what's a highlight from your experience so far? Let's just dive into that a little bit before we get into today's topic.
Well, I think it's got to be the show.
Yeah.
We landed here on the Thursday, late, or was it late? No, I don't know. Anyways, and then we went straight into Rego, and then the show, a day to sleep, and then now we're here on Monday.
Yeah. No, it felt late because it was, local time was early. We got here at like 7:30 in the morning.
Oh, yeah, we did.
But we effectively stayed the night at the airport. Yes. So for those who didn't know, our travel over here was quite extensive. It was somewhat of a milk run. So we left Brisbane, transferred in Sydney, went to Hong Kong, spent 4 hours in Hong Kong, I think, thereabouts, and then Hong Kong into Mumbai. And we arrived in Mumbai at like midnight local time, and our connecting flight to Bangalore wasn't until 6 a.m. So we effectively had to sort of find a way to kill time, and we weren't even sure if we could check into our domestic flight. So yeah, it was a very interesting experience. So, but we made it, and the Bangalore show, as you mentioned, was definitely the highlight. It was a massive day. The production value was, Jade just keeps taking it to another level every time. The participation was outstanding. The people were amazing as always, and now we've just got a little bit of downtime before we head to Delhi. So any highlights from Bangalore in particular?
I don't know. I'm still tired.
It was a long day.
The whole show was just amazing, and like you said, Jay takes his production very seriously.
Yeah, he does.
He really does emphasize that this is a show, and he wants it to be a spectacle for the audience. He really does want an audience, like he wants you to be able to pay your ticket and sit there all day and really love what you're watching. Yeah. It's not just a bodybuilding show down in the local high school in the gymnasium
community hall there.
You know what I mean? Like, he really does take it up another level. It's also exciting, and I think I say this a lot, to see more and more female athletes stepping on stage, which is really exciting. But then back to the audience, it was also really amazing to see a lot more females in the audience as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
good point.
It's the sport is definitely growing. We know that, but it's really exciting to see that there's more female athletes. But then alongside that, the depth and the quality of the athletes is vastly improving.
Yeah, well, I think I said it to Jay on the panel. I said this is probably the best bikini lineup we've had to date.
Yeah.
Even there was only 4, I think. They're all good.
There was, I think, 5.
There was a 5, yeah. They were all good.
5 in the open.
Yeah.
They were all really good. And that's been the thing in the past, is that we've had 1, 2, maybe 3 who were good, and then the rest quite average. And not to take away from them, they've done all the hard work, but it's just the standard has continued to grow. And it's amazing to see.
They're still learning too. Like they're still trying to
Absolutely.
figure out where they fit. Like a lot of girls, and we even saw this the other day, are possibly in the wrong division just because they don't know any better, right?
Well, they don't
They're still evolving.
Also, it's not being shown to them either.
Yeah.
Because there hasn't been the athletes before them.
Exactly.
So we're very much evolving, which is really exciting to see.
It is. So yeah, Delhi is in. Well, what is it now? What's today? Monday.
It's Monday, so it's not this weekend. It's next.
Next weekend. So we've got a little bit of time between now and then, but there's still plenty to do. But that should be a whole nother level because I know he's building on something. So, and like just drawing on what you said, I think it's pretty fair to say that the athletes come first in these experiences over here. You know, that's like their photos with the walkout and the smoke and the backdrop and the lighting and everything. Just it's pretty impressive. So
it's lifelong memories.
Yeah, absolutely. Like they're building businesses. Like this whole experience, even from the first show in 2019 till now, has created this ripple effect of athletes. Yeah, it is. These athletes becoming coaches, these coaches having athletes, those athletes becoming coaches. And because there's such a vast population over here, it just expands and creates its own industry. It's amazing to see.
It's so cool to see, and exactly what you just said, the athletes that we had back in the earlier shows now walking in with their team.
Yeah.
And they've got their team shirts, their team hoodies. You know, one of the teams of the day rocked up and there's like 10 of them in suits. But it's amazing to see that it's created this ecosystem.
Yeah.
It's given people opportunities that didn't have that before.
Not at all. No.
Brand new careers. And it's amazing. It's really cool to see.
It is very cool to see. And that's not a bad segue to today's topic. I mentioned this to you several weeks ago about how we should talk about coaching. Simply because it's become obviously almost an industry on its own, right? Where you've got so many coaches, you know, many people, and granted, COVID probably had a role to play in this.
It had a huge role.
Yeah, a lot of people pivoted to the online space. So there's a lot of coaches out there now, and coaching, you know, it's a very holistic term because it can cover so many things. You know, in the old, you know, you go back 20 years, you think of a coach, you think of a basketball coach or a football coach or a tennis coach, whereas now we've got nutrition coaches and bodybuilding coaches and life coaches and health coaches and mindset coaches and women's coaches, and it just keeps going on. So I thought, given you're in the life coaching space, I'm in the obviously bodybuilding and lifestyle coaching space, I thought we could sort of just have an open conversation about the differences between the primary roles that these people play to try and just clarify to those that are a little bit unfamiliar with it, but also give a bit more clarity around what each one does. So if someone is looking for a coach, you know, at least they've got a little bit more direction as to where they should head and research a bit more. Sound good?
Sounds good.
I keep forgetting I'm guiding this pocket.
But you also keep forgetting that you're not doing this by yourself.
Oh, I know, that's true. Actually, yeah, I've got to keep leading the questions in. So, all right, well, given you're here, let's talk about life coaching, because that's obviously one that a lot of people are familiar with in terms of the term, but not necessarily what that does or who a life coach is. Now, best person to ask is you. So give me your pitch as to what a life coach. What's your elevator? What do they call it? The elevator.
I'm not going to give you my elevator pitch.
Yeah, your elevator pitch.
You're not a potential client of mine.
Well, you know, I could be.
I coach females. No. But I think what is a life coach is probably a very good place to start.
Yeah,
because like amongst the world of coaching, as you said, there is so many different variances. A life coach is very holistic and very open. And a great example of this is I currently have clients who are working on very different goals. I have a client whose one of her goals is around finding a new career path. I have another client whose goal is around her health and well-being. I have another client whose goal is around her relationships. So you can see how a life coach, it very much covers all aspects of life.
Yes.
Now, I think we'll really start to identify the differences in the different coaching as we move through, in that a life coach doesn't tell you what to do. And I think that's sometimes a very big misconception. Whereas, for example, a personal trainer, they're going to tell you what to do.
They have to tell you what to do. It'd be an awkward session otherwise.
Yes. So that's how a life coach can work with people with so many different goals and areas of specialty and expertise. So typically a life coach isn't necessarily someone that works with everyone. They will channel down.
Yeah.
So for example, I work with women only. My core beliefs and foundations are around self-love, self-care, inspiring positive change, living your dream life, finding what lights you up or your passion, and that type of stuff. And whatever that is, it is. And I think that's a really important thing to know about a life coach, is that they will work with you on your goals of various kinds. But then amongst that, we have life coaches that will really niche down and be very specific. So a career life coach.
Oh, yeah.
I know someone who's a divorce life coach.
Yeah, well.
People who are a midlife life coach.
That's a mouthful.
So very niched down.
Yeah, okay.
But going back to the point I said before about a life coach not telling you what to do, the point of a life coach is there's someone there to help guide you and to ask you those powerful questions to help you get below the surface level. And I've spoken to you a bit about this in the past, like when we're talking goal setting and someone comes and says, I want to lose 10 kilos. Yeah, but why?
Yeah.
What is that 10 kilos? What does that 10 kilos actually mean and actually represent? And the perfect example of this was I had a client who said to me that she wanted to lose 10 kilos and was really struggling with it and blah, blah, blah. We went through some questioning and deep dived, and she thought her being 10 kilos lighter was the thing that actually made her happy. But then when we reflected on it, it wasn't the 10 kilos lighter. It was the fact that when she was 10 kilos lighter, she was in a very different stage of life.
Yeah.
She was working a different job. She was very social. There was so many things and so many factors in her life at that time that were what she had confused being 10 kilos lighter with. So that's the life coach. The life coach is going to ask you those beautiful questions to get below the surface, to help you create actions, create plans, moving you towards your goals.
So how important are those questions? So I'm going to assume, and obviously I'm not privy to the conversations you have with your clients, but how you would obviously have to build a level of trust, a level of open communication. You'd have to qualify them in some capacity. So the questions would be quite specific, yes?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I can only speak on on myself as a life coach, but if someone was to inquire with me, that is the very first thing they do is fill in a questionnaire.
Yep.
We need to establish what their goals are. We need to establish some kind of rapport as well straight off the bat. Because without that level of rapport and without that level of trust, it's going to be hard for that person to want to open up and be vulnerable. But also distinguishing that a life coach is not a counselor.
Yes.
So we're talking about forward movement. We're not digging into the past.
Yep.
So when someone comes to you and says, these are my goals, it should be something that's exciting and something that they want to tell you.
Yep.
Should be something that they're glowing and like I want someone to listen to me. And I've had that in the past with one client in particular who was like, I just want someone to tell my goals to because my husband thinks I'm an idiot.
Yeah, wow.
He thinks I'm in dreamland. He thinks this is not real, blah, blah, blah. I just want someone that I can talk to, tell my goals to, and they can help me along the way.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's all it is.
Yeah, well. So you've touched on counselling just then. Now you're only a stone's throw away from opening this up as a service, right?
Absolutely.
So, and you've mentioned that counselling is something where you dig into the past. So you're trying to establish an issue, some trauma, some concerns or something that had happened back then that person hasn't gotten over. Is that correct? I know we're sort of deviating a little bit here, but it was a good segue.
Usually the person will come to you with for example, my mother has passed away. I am struggling with support around family issues.
Yep.
Like they will come to you with the issue.
Yep.
And then as the counsellor, it's your job to basically listen to them, let them express their feelings and offer them tools and guidance to help work through that problem.
Okay.
It's very much here and now. Sometimes, absolutely, it will be going back into the past if there's some childhood trauma, something that's happened 10, 15 years ago, and you will do that again. You'll go through that scenario, you'll work through that to help them move forward.
Yep.
But it's very much in that, like that past and present, whereas life coaching is very much, okay, you're here right now, you want to be there, let's get you there.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. Okay, so let's go one step further then.
Okay.
And you know exactly where I'm going here.
No,
Okay, all right. Well, I just because this is a good opportunity to clarify these different roles and these different terminology. So you got life coach. You just touched on counselling. Can you give me just a brief overview on what a psychologist does? Because there can be a lot of confusion between all three.
Absolutely.
Fair say, and you'll probably find, and I'm sure you've already experienced this, someone who actually needs a psychologist will come to a life coach or vice versa, or go to a counsellor when they need a life coach. So again, this is probably the point of this discussion. So psychology.
So a psychologist, there is varying levels of psychologists depending on their university qualifications and whether they've gone on to do accreditations and things past that.
Yep.
It can take you 10 years to become a psychologist.
Yeah.
The way I like to very broadly, very loosely determine this, and it's different again because some psychologists will choose to specialize in specific areas.
Yep.
But if I was just to loosely describe this, a psychologist tends to deal with more clinical issues.
Yep.
So when we need a diagnosis, when we need more medical type intervention.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing I usually see is a lot of people go to the doctor and say, I'm sad, I'm lonely, I feel a bit depressed, I'm anxious.
Yeah.
And just with the way our healthcare system is set up at the moment, it's like, hey, here's your Medicare plan, go see a psychologist.
Yeah.
And a lot of time, those people don't need a psychologist. They very well just see a counsellor.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to see the Medicare overall is going to get an overhaul. There's some things going on in the counselling space to make it more accessible for people because we have such a shortage of psychologists. Yeah. Wait times can be up to 6 months.
Yep.
And a lot of times these people don't need psychologists. They could go to a counsellor. And then as a life coach, I absolutely have people that may inquire with me who I am like, no, you need to see a counsellor.
Yep.
This is not what you want to work on is not within life coaching. It's within therapy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. That answers that. Outstanding. That's good so far.
Yeah, thanks. It would have been good to have these questions.
No. We're ad-libbing.
So
we're rolling with it. We're in India. It's the Wild West over here, so we might as well roll with it.
Let's roll with it half asleep.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So one of your other areas of specialty that you currently do is obviously mindset coaching and or lifestyle coaching. So there's obviously a little bit of a difference between the two. But would you mind diving into those two specifically? Because again, there's probably going to be a crossover with life coaching. Life coaching probably sits a little bit above those two in terms of their speciality. Would that be fair?
I like to think of life coaching as the overarching terminology for what I do.
Sure.
And my two areas of the specialty underneath that then become your mindset, which is where I spend a lot of time working with women around self-worth, body image, self-confidence, empowerment, that part of mindset.
Yep.
I'm not a just fucking go do it mindset coach. I come from more of a place of compassion and self-care. And then the lifestyle coaching sits alongside that for women who then want those more health and fitness elements. Which is my past, which is my previous experience. So I'd be crazy not to include an element of that as well because I believe self-care is so important and so vital. And I do have women who will inquire with me who don't necessarily want 2 or 3 goals to really work on, but they really want to work more in their health and fitness space without being too strict on things. Or they're brand new and have no idea where to start.
Yeah, cool.
And that's, I think, a good thing too, is like we both offer lifestyle coaching.
Yes.
But our lifestyle coaching is very different.
It's very different, that's right.
And that's where I think where the confusion can come in for a lot of people is they're seeing these terminologies and these coaches.
Yep.
A lot of coaches you see too give themselves made-up titles.
Yeah, I know.
So it becomes very confusing for the person.
Well, I think that's half the battle too, is that this space as a whole is firstly, it's heavily unregulated, right? Which makes it harder to administer. But second to that, the point you just made, people are just coming up with terminologies for their role, their title, which adds to the confusion. It doesn't actually help in any way, in my opinion. It actually just adds more confusion. So, a potential client will see that and firstly not necessarily understand what they do, but more so, I don't know.
It just must be misleading sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was looking for. It is, very much so. And that made-up term may not necessarily be backed by any form of accreditation or qualification or governing body support. So you're getting advice that's necessarily unfounded or has no backbone to it. It's a little bit concerning. But in regards to the lifestyle coaching, just to sort of touch on that, so obviously you've elaborated on your specific lifestyle coaching. So to clarify mine's more if someone is very much looking for, maybe some weight loss to improve their training with more strategy, they need more advice or guidance around nutrition. Obviously, there's an element of mindset and things like that in relation to it, but it does come with more structure Obviously focuses on a bit more of a metric system, and it'll bring more results, I guess, because of that fact. Because we're diving further into, what am I trying to say here?
I think what you're trying to say, because I think saying more results is slightly triggering. It's a different result.
Yeah, it is, absolutely.
So it's for the client to come back and think, what are their goals? So when I look at your life coaching, when I look at your lifestyle coaching, it is very measured. It is, we're tracking macros or we're following meal plan.
Measured, thank you. That's the term.
Here is a training schedule that you are going to follow that I've written for you in the gym.
Yeah, that's very customized.
It's here's your weights training schedule.
Yes.
Like, here's the thing.
Yeah.
We're doing some measurements, we're doing weights, we're doing photos. Yeah. It is very much, because what can't be you can't change what can't be measured, right? So we need to measure everything. We need to know what's going on.
You're correct.
Whereas for me, we take it one step back, and it's more about establishing those foundational habits first.
Yes.
So the people that would normally come to me for lifestyle coaching, if I told them to start tracking macros, it'd probably have a flip.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they don't even know what macros are.
No. Or they might have a poor relationship with the scales or things like that. Yeah.
So for some clients, we won't weigh. We won't step on scales.
No.
We'll use other metrics.
Yeah.
And for some clients too, I can't hand them a weight training program because they've never been to the gym before. Yeah. So it's about establishing, okay, let's find some movement that you enjoy. Do you like doing weights? Yes, no. Do you want to do a dance class? Yes, no. Like, what is the activities you enjoy? Yeah,
absolutely.
So there's such a huge spectrum there under the one banner.
It is. It's quite broad, and I guess, look, some of the emphasis obviously has to fall on the individual looking for the coach.
It absolutely does. 100% it does.
Yeah, they need to do their research. Pretty much most coaches these days offer a consult of some description, so you can basically have a chat to them, whether it's face-to-face, Zoom, email, whatever, to try and establish, their parameters in terms of what the service they offer, and does that align with you. So at least you've got that opportunity. Don't be afraid to reach out and ask a few questions.
As a client, you need to know your why.
Yeah.
And if you don't know your why deep enough, that's okay, because your coach will help get that out of you.
Yeah.
But at least know what you want to achieve. At least know, what are my goals? What am I looking for? What can I actually commit to?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to engage with a coach and say, I'm going to train at the gym, weight sessions 5 days a week. I'm going to track all my macros. I'm going to be all these things. And then you actually can't do it.
Yeah. When reality sets in, it's not possible. And I've actually had clients like that.
Oh, of course. I think we all have.
Yeah. They end up ghosting you because they're probably too ashamed to admit the fact that they've
in their
committed.
Mind, in their mind, they think they've failed.
Yeah.
When in fact, no, they were just a bit too advantageous for their stage of life right now.
Way too optimistic.
And, it's important to be like, this is what I want to achieve. This is my reality right now.
Yep.
And it's breaking it down to be like, where can we go from here?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I completely appreciate that. And that's effectively that's the objective here, is to establish and find the path that you need to take through, the goals that you want to achieve. And they need to be realistic too, let's be fair.
Yeah.
And they won't, I won't say they may change, they will change. Your goals will change. If you achieve the short-term goals that you've set yourself, well, the next ones will generally present themselves.
Your goals need to change, because if your goals never change, it means you're never achieving anything.
You're still treading water, right?
You're still treading water.
Absolutely. All right. So that's a number of different coaching roles within the industry that are pretty common these days.
Yeah.
When we see women's health coach, what's your interpretation of that? Because that's one that pops up from time to time.
Well, if I see someone advertising women's health coach, the very first thing that I'm going to do is look at their qualifications.
Yeah, absolutely.
To understand what they do.
Yep.
Because women's health coach could simply be a PT who's in a nutrition course who now wants to specialize being as a women's coach.
Yeah.
And it could just be that.
Yep.
A women's health, it could also be a doctor from the US who decided to give up private practice and go into health coaching.
Yeah, okay.
So seeing right there is two very big extremes.
Mm-hmm.
It could be someone who has done a functional nutrition course and is now being a women's health coach.
Good point.
So there's very different aspects within this one broad bubble.
Absolutely. So again, the emphasis or the onus does fall on the shoulders of the individual seeking that coach to make sure that they do that research. They find out exactly what that person, because that term women's health coach, as you've just identified, is so broad.
It is very broad.
It could be anyone from a PT who just only wants to work with women to, like you just said, a former doctor, so they've got a PhD.
Yeah.
but now they're specialising in a certain, maybe it's a hormonal part of something. I don't know. Like it can be very specific or very broad.
Yeah.
So yeah, the individual does need to ask the questions, but also I think the coach themselves needs to be very specific about what they offer too. I think the onus also falls on the individual marketing themselves or selling what they're selling. It needs to be very clear, concise, and it needs to be backed as well with appropriate qualifications.
But also too, it's like if you go to a grocery store
Yeah.
and you walk down the aisle, if you're buying products only by what they look like on the front,
that's a good point.
No, you need to stop, pick it up, turn it over, read the back.
Yeah.
So that's what this is. Like, if you're relying on that coach's marketing, please don't. Because I know some absolutely incredible coaches who are terrible at marketing.
Yeah.
Do not market themselves. Do not put out content, but they are incredible coaches.
Yep.
So it's not about just seeing what's on the front or someone's Instagram grid or their TikTok and going, yep, they look good, so they must be good.
Unfortunately, this is the way of the world, though, isn't it?
But it
shouldn't be.
But
I
as
agree
the
with you.
potential client, don't fall for that.
No.
Pick it up, turn it around, read the ingredients, know what's in it, all those things. Like, that's a pretty good analogy for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dig a little bit deeper, and don't be afraid, like you said, to have that consult call and ask those questions. This is what I want to achieve. What does your process look like to help get me there?
Yeah. I think something that a lot of individuals who either engage a coach or are looking to do so fail to remember that they're the employer.
Correct.
So they have the last say when it comes to hiring and firing.
Yeah.
And I know that's kind of a weird thing to say and somewhat aggressive, but it's true. You're hiring this person to provide the service that you believe they can help you with to achieve those goals.
Yeah.
So you have the end say.
And it's a weird thing to say because we personally know plenty of people who have stuck with coaches for 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months past when they wanted to leave because it was no longer serving them in whatever reason.
We literally had a conversation about this yesterday.
We literally did.
Yeah.
So it's, yes, as the client, you have that power.
Yeah.
But also too, like being aware of that, you don't just quit because it's hard.
No, and I was literally going to say that, like, don't just throw in the towel after a couple of weeks because you're not getting a result.
No,
like these things take time.
It takes time.
Yeah.
But it's if you're finding the coach isn't aligned with you, or you were sold a false promise, or there was misleading information, or whatever. Yes, you absolutely are the person that can make that call.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
100%. Okay, so then let's move to the broader topic of nutrition. So obviously, nutrition coaching is very much a thing. I do it. Yeah. You used to work for a school that offered a qualification that then led to a nutrition coaching path. You can go on and do dietetics and nutrition at university, which then allows you to become a coach in some capacity as well. So there's varying levels of it. But again, it go back to the point you raised earlier. It comes down to the specifics of the individual, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So if you are someone who just wants a meal plan, you're probably not going to go necessarily to a dietitian.
No.
If you're just a normal everyday person.
But you know what? Some people do because they don't know any better. And this is obviously the lack of, I guess, education in this space. People don't know where to go, but they are aware that there's dietitians and nutritionists out there.
Correct.
Yeah.
So again, it's almost like that counselor, psychologist.
Yeah,
again.
It is, very much.
So your dietitians, for the most part, not all, because again, some dietitians choose to work in different areas.
Yes.
But for the most part, dietitian is clinical.
Yeah, very much so.
Someone who has a health condition or something very specific and needs a very specific diet for a specific reason, whether that be a kidney condition, whether that be cancer, whatever it might be, heart disease. That's the type of person that would see a dietitian and require that level of nutritional guidance.
Yeah.
But then also too, taking it a step back, nutrition in Australia is a very the regulations on it are quite tricky. So you can't call yourself a dietitian unless you are qualified as a dietitian. And registered. But just about anyone and everyone can call themselves a nutritionist or some form of nutrition.
Correct. A nutrition coach.
Because there's no real regulation around it.
No, there's not.
So unfortunately, again, this is another one that falls back to the client to look at what their potential coach is insured in and has done.
Absolutely.
And I think you and I are a perfect example of this. So I've studied nutrition, yes, but not at that high level. So when it comes to my nutrition coaching within my lifestyle coaching, it's very much guidance based.
Yes.
It is not here's your macros. It is not here's your meal plan. It is about how do we build a healthy plate.
Yes.
It is about, okay, making sure you're getting adequate protein through your day. It's very surface level. And even though I've done those qualifications, because it's outside of my scope to prescribe anything else.
Correct.
Whereas for you, you have studied sports nutrition.
Yes.
You're insured and you're registered in sports nutrition. So you can.
Yeah. But at the same time, I still have limitations within my scope as well. So as an example, like the primary sort of services within my scope are the obvious ones, meal plan design, weight loss, metabolic adaptation, and there's a fourth one, and I can't remember it off the top of my head. Body recomposition. Thank you. Whereas if I have someone who, as an example, came to me and they've just had bariatric surgery, I could potentially help them, but chances are I'm not going to. I'm going to refer them on to a bariatric dietitian. Same with someone who's just come out of, say, chemotherapy or, I don't know, there's a number of different examples where they need the specifics of a clinically qualified dietitian or nutritionist to help them in that space.
Yeah.
I can help them beyond that, but they need that immediate intervention. So, it's called sports nutrition for a reason. We're primarily looking at, obviously, athlete-based scenarios, but also, weight loss, which is, in the broad sense, if there's no underlying issues or, any substantial history, it's quite a simple process. So that's the sports nutritionist as a whole. Yeah.
Experience the difference with Matt Glynn at Code Property Group. With a 20-year reputation of a clean business, Matt is your guy when it comes to all things real estate. Make sure you give him a call now on 0404 315 066.
I think it's important also to talk about personal trainers offering nutrition advice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because like I just said, even though I have some smaller qualifications in this space, I still won't write meal plans or do macros.
No.
But we often see personal trainers who have got no qualifications in this or very limited offering this service.
Yep.
And the ramifications of that can be dire.
Oh, yeah.
We've seen firsthand, we've had friends, we know people who have gone into hormone shutdown, who have had really, really terrible outcomes because their personal trainer, their coach, their nutrition coach wasn't adequately educated in the space and was just doing what might have worked for them or maybe worked for the other client or was something they read online and thought that's what they needed to do.
Absolutely. Or they just spit out the same nutrition plan for each client they've got.
100%. So I know I had a personal trainer many, many, many years ago and she did that. It was, here's a 1,200 calorie meal plan, you follow this. Here's a 1,500 calorie meal plan, you follow this.
Yep.
And that's all it was.
Yep.
And it would have been great if she had said, here is a guide to create your own.
Yeah.
Instead, no, it was, you need to follow this every single day. And she had no qualifications in this space.
No.
And 1,200 calories for a female
is very
low.
It's pretty low.
So
what was I'm deviating here, and I'm not going to name any names, but what was the diet one of your colleagues had that where they were eating like an egg a day or something?
Yeah.
What was that? Obviously, don't go into specifics, but was that all it was? Was it an egg a day, or it was a couple of eggs a day? Do you remember?
Yeah, I do remember. It was a couple of eggs a day, and I think like some salad at lunch.
Yeah, right.
And then there was some form of protein. At dinner. I think like a piece of chicken at dinner or something like that. It was very, very, very limited.
Yeah, right.
And it was included alongside hill sprints and quite high intensity training. Yeah,
that just sounds
disastrous.
So made up.
It was very dangerous.
Yeah.
And she had some pretty awful health complications later.
Yeah.
So yes, she lost weight. Of course she did.
No, you can't not.
You can't
under those circumstances.
But then she had some really bad, particularly hormone disruptions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's important also in this, and this goes back to the conversation we had yesterday, which we won't obviously dive into because we'll protect those involved. But don't always choose a coach based on price. Don't go to the cheapest. The cheapest isn't always the best.
It's definitely usually not the best.
No, it's not. Well, yeah, no, you're right. It's not. I often preach about health being an investment, and there's always other means within your life that you can sacrifice to invest properly in your health, because at the end of the day, it should be a priority. But, seeking out or comparing a number of different coaches, no matter what it is, whether it's contest prep or nutrition or life coaching or whatever, and your end result or the decision you make is purely based around dollars,
It's a bad way.
It is a very bad way to be. And I think that's, unfortunately, I know times are tough and cost of living is high and things like that, but please don't make a decision purely based on cost.
Most coaches, they have levels.
Yeah.
So, for example, like you're a great example of this. You have your app, you have nutrition-only coaching, you have training-only, you have both. You have check-ins once a week, you have check-ins once a fortnight.
Yeah.
So there are very, very customizable options to make coaching affordable.
Absolutely.
But also the conversation we had yesterday, and this is another key point, we kind of touched on it before, is don't just be drawn to a coach by like shiny object syndrome. So this situation we're talking about was, for example, there may be 10, 15 incredible athletes. But what about the other 40, 50, 60 who are not being promoted, who are not being showcased? And you've got these athletes who look incredible, who are being showcased, and then that draws other people in.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's referral. But when you actually talk to some of those athletes, they're like, nah, don't go there.
Yeah.
I'm leaving. It's toxic. It's this, it's that.
I've had a terrible experience.
Yeah. So it's just because someone, like, yes, you want a coach who gets results, yes, but you don't want a coach that gets results no matter the cost.
Yeah, no matter what. Yeah. Risk versus reward.
Because that's sometimes also tricky. And how do you know? It's hard to know.
Well, you don't. Again, it comes back to that point we made about doing your research and asking appropriate questions, doing a consult, talking to people who have coached with them before.
Yeah.
That's probably the best transparency you're going to get.
Yeah.
Is someone who has either had the experience or is having the experience, or even if they've inquired and they didn't like their attitude or their demeanor or whatever. Yeah, definitely worthwhile.
The health and fitness industry and the coaching industry as a whole is quite small. So someone will always know someone.
Yeah.
So you can always ask, if you have someone that is training under someone at the moment, ask them, do you know someone that trains under this person?
Yeah.
Like, it's very easy to get referral. Absolutely.
I've had that before, and it's a tough one when you're getting questions asked about a potential competitor as well. So you've just got to be careful about who you ask.
Yeah.
Make sure that there's they're genuine in their response, but at the same time you're going to get a pretty decent result out of it. Particularly if you can go to multiple people, and then obviously do your own research, maybe look at reviews online, things like that. You put all that together, you're going to get a pretty conclusive outcome.
Reviews from past clients, I think, is really powerful.
Yeah.
If a coach has no reviews from past clients, it's usually a bit of a red flag.
Yeah.
Because if the clients have left and were so happy, they'd be happy to give a testimonial and a review.
Yes.
If they've left and they're like, no, thanks, I'm not going to give you a review, that's usually a red flag.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So then I guess the only other one that I was really going to touch on was obviously contest prep coaching or bodybuilding coaching. And I think this is an important one because obviously it's quite a specific niche. It's very specific in terms of how we get athletes to stage and still optimize their health. Now, look, obviously the top coaches do have a higher price point to their coaching, but it's for good reason.
Yeah.
And knowing what I know about the sport, having been involved in it at various capacities for 10 years, like we're over here now judging, it's not the worst thing in the world to pay a good coach top dollar, because your health is going to get looked after, particularly when we're going to extreme levels of conditioning and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you've experienced obviously multiple sides to this.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to elaborate a little bit on your take on the bodybuilding coach?
I think firstly,
are you looking to shed a few kilos, change your composition, improve your relationship with food, increase your strength, or simply just have a better accountability level? Then maybe coaching is for you. I now offer online coaching in a number of capacities, from week to week, fortnightly, monthly, and of course nutrition-only coaching. So if you are interested or want to know more, simply jump on paulsbodyengineering.com or simply send me a DM.
It's important to acknowledge that bodybuilding is not a cheap sport or a cheap hobby.
No, it's not.
So if you are going to get involved in this and you're going to take it seriously, you need to accept, first and foremost, it is an expensive activity.
Yeah.
And if you financially don't have the means, try something else for a little while first.
Yeah.
There is nothing stopping you from just going to the gym and training hard for 1-2 years until you're in a better financial position to then engage with a coach.
Yep.
Or maybe have a consult with a coach and say, hey, I'd love to pay you for your time 1 hour every 3 months.
Yeah.
To just guide me until I'm in a position to financially fund this.
Great idea.
Like,
absolutely.
There are ways around this.
Yep.
Because
you're biting your tongue a little bit.
I'm biting my tongue. Because as an athlete, I've experienced multiple different coaches, and I'm gonna preface this and say I've had coaches that people know about, and I've had coaches that people do not know about. Everyone just assumes I've had the couple that they know about, and I have not have had multiple. And I've had terrible experiences amongst some great experiences. And I've had the do at all costs approach, which then honestly led me to years and years and years of hormonal issues.
Yep.
And at the age of 27 being put on HRT.
Yeah.
No one should be put on HRT at 27.
No.
So, and I've openly talked about this on the girls podcast as well, and it's serious. And people, it's when you, at the time I didn't know any better.
No.
And that's the thing.
Yep.
When you're in it and you're drinking the Kool-Aid, and that's my comment before about getting past client referrals and testimonials, because when you're in it and when you're drinking the Kool-Aid, you don't think anything's wrong.
You don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know.
No.
So.
And you also can get contest prep has the what's the word I'm looking for? It has the ideology of do it at all costs.
Yeah.
Once you're in, you've got to see it out. You know what I mean?
Don't.
But you don't. No, you don't.
If your body is not responding how it should be, it is the most strongest, most powerful thing you can do is acknowledge that and walk away.
100%.
Do not just dump your coach, but reverse out and do things properly.
Yeah.
But if you can go, you know what, this is not working out for me right now. Maybe I'll come back in a year's time. Maybe this isn't for me. That is strong and that is powerful.
Yep.
There is no heroes in this. You don't need to push through.
It's not going to improve your Instagram or anything like that by seeing it out and then having this massively, terrible health complications or something afterwards.
Yeah. And I'm quite passionate about if you're going to go down the path of bodybuilding, get an experienced coach.
Yeah.
And I feel bad sometimes saying this because I understand there are inexperienced coaches out there and some incredible, everyone has to start somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a complete novice, complete newbie, and you know what, you've got a coach who is also a novice and a newbie, and you're doing this thing together, it might work out amazing for you. And there's been great examples of that in the past.
Yes.
But just make sure that coach is upskilling, is learning,
Yeah.
is across what they need to be across, and isn't just your PT at the gym who said they can put you through a comp prep.
Yeah, absolutely. Or they've competed once and now they're calling themselves a contest prep. I see that all the time.
It doesn't translate.
No, it doesn't.
Just because you can do the thing doesn't mean you can coach the thing.
Correct, 100%. Like it's, as you know, I'm a massive rugby league fan, and you often see supreme athletes who have had a 10-year career go into coaching and fail because they can't deliver the same message that they could on the field in the coaching box.
And also vice versa.
Absolutely.
You can have some coaches who are incredible coaches who are rubbish players.
Yep. A lot of them have been. Like I could name a few, that are coaching at the top end right now in terms of rugby league, not bodybuilding. But
so this is why, going back to the Instagram comment before, just because someone won a show doesn't mean they can coach you to win a show. It means that they are coachable.
They are very coachable.
But they may not be a good teacher.
And they most likely only know one way.
Exactly.
Their method has been delivered for them.
Yes.
That doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
I think with the bodybuilding, it's really important. Obviously, price is a factor. Yes, I 100% understand that.
Yeah.
There are other ways you can try cut costs around. So, shop around your groceries, buy a secondhand bikini if you need to. Like, there's other ways you can cut costs. The coaching shouldn't be it, but also it doesn't mean you find the most expensive coach and they're the best either.
No, that's exactly right. Again, it comes down to research, but be prepared to spend, I suppose.
It's an investment.
It is an investment, but given that, like I said at the top, given that as a coach, we're taking you to extreme levels of conditioning, depending on the division, of course. That there is a potential red flag in terms of your health. So it needs to be done in the correct way. It needs to be done with the appropriate knowledge, specific to you, and not only get you to stage, but also see you out the other side.
Yes.
Because and we've seen this firsthand, and we've experienced it firsthand, if you come out the other side without direction, without guidance, without support, things go pear-shaped very, very quickly. And I know you're going to potentially specialize in emotional eating and things like that as a bit of a side thing, which you're welcome to obviously elaborate on. But you can put on weight so quickly post-show, and without appropriate guidance or direction from a qualified coach, that can then lead to obviously mental health issues, depression, further health complications, thyroid issues, hormonal issues. The list goes on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some of which you've experienced yourself, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I don't wish anyone to ever experience.
No. Well, it's been, without putting in a timeline, it's been years before you're now at a place where you're eating the most food you've ever had in terms of calorie intake. You're training pain-free.
It's been 5 years.
Okay, there you go. All right. So, and that's the outcome of obviously a poor reverse with little guidance.
With a bunch of other things.
Yeah, exactly. And you've sort of had to go off into the wilderness and figure things out for yourself and then get direction again.
It's but also too, it's been 5 years. So yes, I hurt myself very badly in training, which was then years and years and years of rehab and all the things, seeing specialists, back surgeons, all the things. Hormone issues. I'm 5 years post I'm not. I'm 10 years post my HRT.
Oh, is it 10 years?
Or 27.
Yeah, true. Yeah, 17, yeah.
And I got my bloods done, what was that, maybe 8 months ago, and they were not ideal.
No, you're still low in some areas.
I'm still very, very low in other areas, to the point where now, as I'm hitting the perimenopausal age, considering going back onto HRT again. Because there's other factors now. So I did the HRT for several years, got my hormones into a pretty steady place. They were not ideal by any means, but they were steady, and I was happy with that.
Yep.
And then now, 10 years later, heading perimenopause, they've gone a bit haywire again.
Yep.
So potentially reopening that door.
But under the right circumstances.
So. Totally, and totally different guidance this time, and under very, very different circumstances.
Yep.
But that just goes to show that this has a flow-on effect.
Yeah, it does.
And it's not a 6 months flow-on effect.
No.
It's years and years and years flow-on effect.
Yep. I think going back to the start of the contest prep topic, it's really important that you do a contest prep for the right reasons as well.
100%.
You don't just do it because, maybe you're an aspiring PT and you think it'll get you clients, or, you're trying to boost your Instagram profile. It is such a big commitment, and it requires so much discipline, somewhat selfish behavior, that you need to do it for the right reasons. You need to do it, for you and for, to challenge yourself, or maybe you aspire to be, have a bodybuilding career, whatever the case may be. It has to be within.
I think this is also a really great topic for another podcast in itself.
Yeah.
But I just wonder if anyone that is listening, just bring up this point that you just reminded me of. When you first started your PT business, well, around that time, we had some marketing materials of you shredded. When you just on a comp and you were shredded, those marketing materials fell flat.
Yeah, they did.
We then had other marketing materials, which was you in a more lifestyle looking physique, and that got you the most traction.
Yeah.
So anyone that's listening thinking they need to do a bodybuilding comp for PT, for business, for whatever, I'll tell you right now, 99% of your clients do not like the way that looks, and they do not think it's approachable. They do not think it's sustainable. They're not impressed by it. They don't want it. They won't.
They think it's ugly a lot of the time.
Yeah, they won't come to you because of that, unless they have aspirations potentially to do that in the future themselves.
Yeah, that's right.
But the Gen Pop population are going to be most of your clients, and they're not going to be drawn to that.
Yep.
So back to the whole point of this conversation, talking about choosing a bodybuilding coach. I think, yes, we've harped on about making sure that you're not just going with someone who's cheap. Make sure you have a consultation with that person. Get on the phone, get on a Zoom call, and actually speak to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't just do it by email or by Instagram. Actually communicate with the person. That is so, so important, because you need to feel that you can trust this person. You need to feel that you have a rapport and a relationship that can be built, because bodybuilding becomes very vulnerable, and you need to share some pretty vulnerable stuff you need to feel comfortable to do so.
Yep.
Because if you don't feel comfortable to do so, you're going to withhold information. You are then also going to not tell your coach when things are going wrong. You potentially could tell them mistruths. It's a slippery slope.
Yes, absolutely.
So price, whatever. Make sure you can relate to them. Check their qualifications.
Yeah, qualifications are pretty important because unlike lifestyle coaching or, nutrition coaching, the specifics of bodybuilding coaching, and look, there isn't a specific bodybuilding qualification out there.
No.
I literally did this in my master's not that long ago as a study piece, but as a minimum, a bodybuilding coach needs a nutrition qualification, a sports nutrition qualification, because you are coaching athletes. They need to have had several years of experience in terms of weight training, whether that be through strength and conditioning, bodybuilding, body recomposition. They need to know the ins and outs. And look, in my personal opinion, and not every, and I don't know what your take on this is. I don't think I've asked you. I believe they should have competed multiple times, simply because there is a level of empathy that is required when you're coaching someone. People, as you just mentioned, become very vulnerable. They become very emotional when you're on lower calories and you've been doing that for a long period of time and there's heavy levels of fatigue and things like that. You need to understand that situation and not just tell them to suck it up or get on with it or close your eyes and go to sleep. You need to obviously walk the path with them. You're on a journey together, so you need to understand. And having competed yourself and been through this, I think is quite a specific level of experience that certainly helps you guide people.
I think that goes back to what we said before. Like, you don't have to be the coach that's won everything and has pro cards.
No, not at all.
It's irrelevant. I think absolutely experiencing the sport, hands down, is great. Whether you have to do it, I'm not entirely sure. But you need to have gone through some kind of body recomposition and transformation, and you have to understand. Yeah. You have to have that knowledge behind you, and it's really, really important.
It is. Yeah. Look, I can see the argument both ways, and I did this recently and got a lot of interesting feedback in regards to a questionnaire. So people have different takes on it. In my opinion, purely for the empathetic side of view and understanding, I know a lot of coaches out there that have not competed ever, and the way they coach is very military style, shall we say, for lack of a better term.
From what we've heard.
Yeah, so, I don't think that's a wonderful experience. Like, at the end of the day, the athlete who's going to get on stage, whether you're a first timer or not, wants to have a wonderful experience. They want to enjoy not only the show day, but everything leading up to it. Yes, it's going to be hard. Yes, it's going to be disciplined. But at the same time, you want to reflect back and go, well, that was pretty cool. I enjoyed that experience for what it was. So, I prefer to think that a coach should have the skill set to hold their hand if they need to, but also light a fire under their ass if they need to. I think that's probably a good way of saying it. I think that's all we got. What do you reckon?
I don't know. What other coaches are there? There's heaps of coaches out
there. I know. What are we at? We're approaching an hour.
Yeah. It's just first step is for the client to understand what they actually need.
Yeah.
Where do you actually need support? Where do you need guidance?
I think that's a good point because, if you're, let's just use an example that comes to mind. Like, if you're struggling in life, say you've got a lot of anxiety, maybe you're under financial stress, maybe your marriage isn't working out the way it should, you're getting stressed from the kids, I don't know, something along those lines. I think most people will then go to the GP, like you said, and potentially get a referral to a psychologist. But the answer may lie more with a counsellor or with a life coach. It just depends on the circumstance.
Or it may lie with the can of beer you drink first thing in the morning.
Absolutely.
And we laugh at that, but that's something that people do, and they wonder why they're so stressed and anxious every day.
You know what? Like, that's a really good point, because if you look within and just sit back and do a little bit of an audit on your own lifestyle, there may be some simple things that you can change to improve your circumstance.
There are some huge things that most people can change.
Absolutely.
Because there's something we were listening to, and it was talking about this mum who was stressed and tired, and she had no patience. She had a couple of young kids. I'll hand her that. Husband and all the things, but she was so stressed and anxious and just not coping. But the very first thing she was doing every morning was tipping a can of V into a coffee cup.
Yeah.
And she was putting it in the coffee cup because she knew it was the wrong thing to do, and she didn't want her kids to see she was doing it. And it's like that, starting your day like that straight away is setting you up for failure.
Yeah.
So look at what you need. Do a bit of a life audit. did a post, well, I did it today. It'll be out by the time this goes. And it had some prompts, and one of them was, what habits are helping you, what habits are not helping you.
Yeah.
And just writing things like that down can sometimes be really eye-opening.
Well, you just got to be real with yourself too.
Yeah.
You know, things are not going to fix themselves unless you make an attempt to do it.
You've got to acknowledge it first,
Yeah.
right? If you don't acknowledge it, then it doesn't exist.
Yeah, exactly. And you can, put your head in the sand or pretend that, nothing's wrong, but nothing will change as well.
Yeah.
And then you've got to ask yourself, okay, well, am I happy to be like this in 6 months time? Am I happy to have these same circumstances, these same feelings in 6 months, 12 months from now?
A quote, and I've said this a lot, and I think I've said it on your podcast before, was, if I had to package up my life and hand it to my daughter, would I be proud or would I be sad?
Yeah, I do like that.
Yeah.
Because that's real, right? That's, and that's a really good example, because most daughters, and obviously we can use Mia. Yeah, I agree. But we can use Mia as an example, because she obviously, worships you, for lack of a better term, maybe.
Not say worship.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Like, she does follow a lot of what you do. She looks up to you in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So what you do is then observed by her and potentially replicated by her.
Yeah.
And a lot of mother and daughters have that relationship. So that specific quote is very real, and it's worthwhile asking if you feel things are a little bit astray.
Well, they say that the same-sex parent is the number one role model in the child's life.
Yeah.
Statistically speaking, whether you agree with it or not, that is, the same-sex parent is the number one, followed closely by the other parent and influential people in their life, like sporting coaches and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's very important to understand that, yes, you may think your children don't listen to you, but let me tell you, they see everything.
Yeah.
And like Mia's a perfect example. She's had a few things recently where I'm like, that's random. Where'd that come from? And then upon reflection, I'm like, that is me.
Yeah.
And good and bad things.
Yeah.
So it's not something that I've told her to do.
No.
She's just done it because
that's what you've done.
It's what I've done.
Yep.
So if not for you, and if you're a parent, maybe for your kids.
Absolutely. Like, what's that quote? If you're not, what's the quote about the kids? You often say, and I'm going to paraphrase this, you take a bullet for your kids.
Yeah, but will you be healthy for them?
Would you be healthy for them?
Yeah.
I think that's pretty powerful,
Yeah. And health comes, we're not just talking about losing weight.
No.
Health is body.
It's just energy. It's
everything.
Being present. It's, giving them time.
I think I sent you something really good the other day on Instagram, and I can't quite remember it. I'm just going to see if I can find it, because I thought that was interesting. Where is it?
She's currently scrolling the phone, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. The stat was that 70% of fathers are overweight.
Yep.
And then that's when it hits you that you're training for more than just the way you look.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're 100%. Working out to be the best example for your kids.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Absolutely.
No, you should. That should be one of your primary reasons.
Yeah.
Obviously health, in my opinion, health should be the reason, but sometimes that's not a motivating factor for people.
Yeah.
But when you've got living, breathing children under your roof that are wholly and solely relying on you, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah. I think I might wrap up with a selfish plug here.
Go on.
If you are listening to this and going, that's great and all, but I'm really confused and I feel lost, that's when you engage a life coach.
There you go.
That life coach will help you they'll ask you the questions. They'll help you get to those non-surface level answers.
Yep.
They'll help you make sense of where you are now and where you want to be. And then a really great life coach will refer you on.
I was literally waiting for you to stop to say that.
Yeah.
So it might take 1 or 2 sessions with a life coach.
More than that.
Okay. You then get the answer, or you establish the answers yourself based on the questions you've been asked. Yeah. And then they'll go, well, okay, we're here, but this is where you need to go.
Well, perfect example, and is not a health example, but I'm going to use it, is one of my clients is currently wanting to get out of her workplace. Very, very high up, successful woman in that workplace, but it's toxic culture. She doesn't like it. So we've been working on her, exploring her career options.
Yeah, okay.
And what that now looks like. She's now investigating courses and other pathways in areas that she's like, wow, I didn't even think of this. And I'm reading this and it's ticking every box I want just because we asked those questions.
Yeah.
So we uncovered some areas. So she's now researching this. She's so excited. And when we finish our coaching series, her next step from this will be to, go on and do these courses and engage a mentor in that actual space.
Yeah.
Because I can help her to uncover.
Yeah.
But I can't help her in that space beyond that.
There's another coach, mentor.
A mentor.
Business coach was one we didn't touch on as well.
Oh, there's so many.
Yeah.
And even like nutrition, I was thinking before, there's nutrition coaches in every freaking thing.
Absolutely,
so many.
yeah.
And it just swings back to, what do you want? What do you need?
Yeah, absolutely.
What are your goals?
Absolutely. Ask the right questions. Undertake the consults, do your research, and don't feel you've got to rush into it as well. Do the time, but at the same time, don't push it to the side. And if it becomes overwhelming or too hard, persevere, because you will get to the answers you seek.
Yeah. And if finances are tough, because we know they are for most people.
Yeah.
One thing I love doing is signing up people's mailing lists.
Absolutely, it's free.
There's so much free content in people's mailing lists. People don't realise, they go, it's junk emails. No.
No.
Your good coaches are not sending promotional marketing emails all the time. They are sending you content.
Absolutely.
So follow them on their socials, sign up to their mailing list. And
podcasts.
That's how you'll get a great taste for who they are.
Absolutely. Podcasts are a great example. YouTube's another one. So there's heaps of free content out there. So if you find someone, you go, this person sounds like who I'm looking for.
Follow them.
Yeah, follow them. Look at all their media channels. Sign up to their newsletter, as you said. Get a feel for what they do and who they are.
Yeah. But just like I said, financially, if you can't invest right now,
yep,
there's so much great free content in
100%.
In what people are putting out. And I don't mean go follow every Joe Blow, because there's plenty of crap out there.
Yeah.
But the ones who you're like, I actually would like to invest with you.
Yeah.
Follow their content for a while.
And you know what? If you're unsure as to who to follow, give us a shout. Send us a DM, send us an email, send us a message, either of us or both of us, and we'll happily point you in the right direction of some great people that offer great content for you to follow and learn a little bit more about.
And I've got some incredible friends in this space.
Yeah.
And obviously you're my husband, so you're a coach as well. But I'm never the person that's like, you have to go see Paul Hooper.
No.
There's no one else.
I don't expect you to either.
And because that would be very biased, and it would not be taking that client's needs into consideration first.
Yep.
So absolutely reach out to both of us, because you will get an honest answer from both of us.
Yeah, totally agree. All right. Well, we'll wind up there. Thank you, Moni.
That's all right.
That actually went longer than I thought, so that's really good. But I am going to finish on a question.
Oh.
A question without notice. And you know how I generally finish up the podcast with who would you go to dinner with? Now, you've obviously answered that question in a previous podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
my answer would be very different now.
It probably would be. That's okay. But what I'm going to ask you is, what would be your fight song? So if you were a boxer, a martial artist, an MMA fighter, hypothetically, what would be the song you would walk out to?
Britney Spears' Work, Bitch.
That was quick. Is that on your gym playlist?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Cool.
There's a couple of songs that I go to when things are shit, and that is one of them.
Yeah, okay. Cool. That was a good answer. I like it.
A bit of Britney?
Hey?
Bit of Britney?
No, nothing wrong with a bit of Britney, but in many different ways.
Terrible.
All right. Well, thank you, Moni. Do appreciate it. And look, give your podcast and your website services coaching a plug, please.
Okay, so we'll be here all day.
That's right.
No, just follow me on Instagram. That's where you'll find most things. So Monique_Hooper_.
Yep.
And website MoniqueHooperCoach.com.au. But you can find the links to everything in my link in bio on my Instagram.
Yep.
Don't add me on Facebook because I don't use it.
Yep.
TikTok's not my jam. But myself and two other girlfriends do have a podcast. Yep. You may have heard of it. It's called Queen We Got You. Also, find it on Instagram, or you'll find it the link in my bio.
Cool. And obviously, if you're interested in my coaching services, jump on paulsbodyengineering.com, or my link in bio on Instagram as well will direct you there. But thank you very much for listening. Really do appreciate it. Please screenshot this podcast and share it on your stories. Get the message out. Tag some people that you believe may need to hear it. If you know someone that is looking for a coach in any capacity, this might be the podcast that just sort of identifies and clarifies a few points for them. So tag them in this, but also tag myself at Paul's Body Engineering. Tag Moni at Monique_Hooper_. But other than that, let's wrap up here from India. Thank you once again for listening. And as I say to every client every single day, have a great day.